Welcome to the Flight Club Podcast, a woman's guide to leaning out. We give you a behind-the-scenes look at business launch and growth through the stories of successful female entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Felina Hansen, founder and CEO of Hera Hub.
Hello and welcome. I am so excited to give this update with the incredible, fantastic, amazing Nichole MacDonald, the Sash Bag founder. I have known Nicole now, well over 10 years, probably more like 14 years, and I've just been blown away at what an incredible innovator she is, entrepreneur she is, and just badass woman, man. She makes it happen. So I am really excited to share updates. Nicole founded Sash Bag, the Sash Bag, almost 9 years ago, and has built an incredible company, an amazing product, innovative crossbody handbag, has manufactured all over the world, multi-million dollars in annual sales, has built licensing agreements. I mean, she has just done it all and defended a brand that is so popular that it's been knocked off what seems like 1 million times at this point. So we're going to hear from Nicole today. We've done a couple interviews with her, a bit about her first crowdfunding campaign, which was super successful, but we're going to get an update from her today on the business and get into something that she gets asked about probably on a daily basis, how her third Kickstarter did over $1 million. So let's dive in. Welcome to the show today, Nicole.
Hi, Felina. Thanks so much for that lovely introduction.
Absolutely. All well-deserved and much, much more. So give us an update on where you're at with Sash Bag. And for those who maybe just are stumbling on this and haven't had a chance to hear your other interviews, and I would encourage them to go back and listen, but just give those folks that are brand new to Sash Bag a bit of a, what is it?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so the Sash Bag is a product that I designed essentially after my own need, my own frustration of feeling like there wasn't a handbag out there that suited my needs. I was frustrated with the lack of options, and funnily enough, I had a handbag line that I designed previously, and even my own designs, I still didn't like them because I was still viewing, the solution to this problem as some sort of handbag. So when I came up with the idea for Sash Bag, I really was trying to think of something that wasn't a handbag but could still organize the contents of a woman's purse, and the idea just kind of flashed in my head. So I was at Legoland with my son. I was carrying a bag that I designed, but I still was frustrated with it. Very, very aware of the lack of pockets and the lack of, suitable ways to carry my stuff around this amusement park. And the idea just flashed in my head. I had this vision of just a simple series of pockets that could kind of wrap around your torso so you could put all your stuff in these various pockets. And I went home the next day and got together with our mutual friend, Vanessa, and made one and just kind of got creative and thought, okay, how could this work to have your stuff organized in a different way and not have to carry around a purse? And the first night that I wore it out, I had 3 people stop me and ask me about it. And that's when I knew I was onto something. This isn't, something that's just for me. This is something that's really practical that I think a lot of people would like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I went ahead and started working on it. I worked on it for a couple of years. Now I do have a background in product development. So I had a little bit of a head start knowing where to go, who to talk to, how to get samples made. But I really took my time, spent a couple years developing it, and then launched the company in the fall of 2012.
Yeah.
And initially, we had a lot of manufacturing issues the first couple of years. And really my focus from the time I launched the company until about 2016, when I had my first Kickstarter campaign, was to just hit the pavement. I went out, sold the product face to face, every chance I had, lots of Hera Hub events, networking events, farmers markets, festivals, state fair, county fair, I was in LA, San Diego, setting up booths every single weekend, sometimes 4 or 5 times a week, just getting the product in front of as many people as possible. And, typically when people come to me and they ask me advice on how to market their product or sell their product, that is the first step. I always tell people to get out and just sell it to people, whether it's a farmer's market or networking events or in the parking lot of the grocery store, like Joy Mangano did with the miracle mop. Isn't that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah, like that. It's just such a classic strategy, and it's effective. You make money, you learn everything you need to know. And that step is really, really important. And I find that a lot of people tend to, want to go past it. They want to get straight to, like, how do I make the big bucks? And how do I have a big, campaign? And that's really the foundational piece that I just can't stress enough. I'm so glad I took the time to do that, because by the time I launched my first Kickstarter campaign in 2016, I knew my customer really, really well. So I knew what questions she was going to ask, how much money she was going to spend, what other products does she like. And I was way off about my target demographic in the beginning. So it was really valuable to take that time and launch, my Kickstarter after I already had all that information.
Yeah, I think, all that hard work that you did laying the foundation. I mean, to your point, so many people just want to get straight to online sales, but I think your story just is the perfect demonstration that you are going to have to get out there. You are going to have to meet clients face to face to really understand the market and your product. And I'm sure throughout that period of time, you're building your tribe, right? I mean, that's such a big theme of your story, is building your tribe and building your email list along the way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I had my first campaign, my email list was about 4,000 people, to put into perspective.
That's amazing. Like, that really is amazing.
Well, and that was from going to farmers markets and festivals. I would put my email list. That's how many markets I did. Like, I was out there a lot. But yeah, so my first campaign raised about $81,000. And I already had a following of about 4,000 people on Facebook and an email list of 4,000 people. And so to just kind of tell the whole story real quick of how things have progressed. So that $81,000 Kickstarter campaign, at that point in time, I was making about $350,000 in annual revenue. That's the revenue I was making, by going out and selling to one person at a time. When I did that campaign, it really was the thing that had me see what was possible with online marketing. So I went the opposite way. I did the traditional route first, and then I opened my mind to the idea of selling this product online. And I happened to get into it when Facebook marketing was just so good. It was so easy. The returns were massive. We would make about $12 return on investment for every dollar we spent on advertising, which was really, really high. So I was able to take that marketing that I put together for the Kickstarter campaign and kind of duplicate the efforts on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And we were just raking in the sales. And that was the first year that we broke $1 million in revenue. But shortly after that, Facebook advertising got really hard. It got really crowded. Really competitive. And then also after the Cambridge Analytics fiasco, then people were changing their, preferences, and it just stalled out to the point where we went from, a $12 ROI to like $2 or $3. I mean, it was a huge, huge tank. So there was some, trial and error to get the advertising back up. But being an entrepreneur, you constantly have to be looking at what are the ways can I reach people? And that's when I really started looking more into building my community organically. Mm-hmm. And that was the beginning of my Facebook group, was in the summer of 2017. And that changed everything about my business. Changing it from selling a product and marketing a product to building a community. Total game changer. Yeah. So, again, the 2018 Kickstarter campaign that raised $1.2 million is definitely the thing I get asked about the most.
I'm sure.
People want to know, how do I raise $1 million on Kickstarter? I'm about to tell you. And it is all about that community. And this wasn't even an intentional strategy. It's funny because, Brian Hawkins, he teaches international marketing, and he had me come speak to a group of students. And the class was, they called it relationship marketing or something.
Okay.
He wanted to come and talk about community building, and I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, it wasn't a strategy for me to be like, "Ooh, I'm gonna do relationship marketing." No, it just was natural because I wanted a place to connect with customers and offer specials and just kind of get around the formalities of Facebook advertising. And then it just kind of grew organically on its own. And this community became like a family. So, the product is called Sash, and our customers sort of adopted the moniker Sash Sisters and started calling each other Sash Sisters, and really just getting into connecting with each other and sharing their excitement around the product. And this was really, it was fun. And it was, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. I can't think of the word. But
that's okay. It's okay.
But it was kind of infectious, right? So it just kind of grew on its own. And by the time we launched our Kickstarter campaign in 2018, we had about 5,000 people in this private Facebook group. And it wasn't even necessarily my plan to launch a Kickstarter campaign, but I did it because I had so many people asking me for different products. So in this community, I listen to people, I ask questions, and when they answer it, I care and I pay attention. Yeah. So again, it's not about metrics or creating a big group or marketing. It's about really, really, really understanding your customer and what they want and who they are and how they think. And when you listen to them and you give them what they want, they're going to shop.
Yeah.
So I use this group to find out, like, what do my customers want? Everyone was asking me for bigger styles. They wanted to be able to fit different things in their Sash bag. And it was something that I had historically said no to. When people would say, like, "Oh, I wish the Sash bag was bigger." I was like, "Nope, it's perfect. It's perfect the way it is. Stop asking.
Deal with it." Where to?
But then after, in this group, I saw so many people agreeing and having conversations about, yeah, I wish this and I wish that, and wouldn't it be great? So I thought, you know what better way to test this out than to have a Kickstarter campaign? Because then I'm not necessarily taking a huge risk on, trying out a different design that I don't know whether or not it's going to sell. So I used the group to decide everything that was going to be in the campaign, every step along the way. So this group told me what sizes they wanted, what colors they wanted, and everything that they decided, I put in the campaign. And we launched it on the 4th of July, and it raised $250,000 in the first 24 hours.
Wow.
And that was completely organic, no advertising, nothing. That was just purely from the excitement of this community that had their voices heard when I launched this campaign. And then in the course of the following 29 days, the campaign ended up raising a total of $1.2 million.
Amazing. Just absolutely incredible. And I really have to underline something that you said, Nicole, because, people that don't know you personally just have to understand this. Like, when you say you answered questions, you answered questions. I mean, you are so vulnerable and transparent and authentic and whatever, ick word that we can add to it. I mean, you were there, I saw it. I'm in that group, and some of my favorite videos of you were like getting on the treadmill in the morning and being like, you know what, this is hard. Like, you were so transparent about how challenging it can be to launch and grow a business. And you shared that with every single person in that group, and then extended that into like thank you notes, when you shipped out product. And I mean, there was just so much that you did, not because you were trying to be some big marketer, but just because you authentically cared. I mean, you could tell.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. And yeah, and again, that is nothing that in the beginning I was like, oh, I know, I'm going to have a strategy of sharing everything with my customer. No, it's just organic. It's just natural for me. And that's the thing I've realized with this company is we actually have our customer service policy is treat our customers the way we would treat friends. And that doesn't necessarily even mean the customer's always right? You know, if you have a friend who's acting like a jerk, you're going to be like, hey, stop being a jerk. But you also, if you have a friend who is at the airport and their Sash bag broke, you would drive to the airport and bring them a Sash bag because they're your friend.
Yeah.
So that's how we are. We treat everyone like a friend, again, from a place of just, that's what I would want, you know? Yeah. And that's how it comes out. You know, that's how it organically comes across, is just like so much authentic sharing and connection that, yeah, the Sash community really is like a family. It's pretty incredible.
It is. And again, testament to that of the party that you threw, but let's go, we'll get to that in a second. Let's get into a little bit of the nuts and bolts of this $1 million Kickstarter campaign, because I know you get lots and lots of questions about it. So, you know, you'd had these successful campaigns before. So you had, I'm sure, a bit of a formula with the video and the rewards and things of that nature. Just kind of talk us through how you thought through the design and development of this campaign.
Yeah. So again, I really designed it after what I knew my customers wanted. So anybody who's looking to create a campaign, I would say that's number one. Well, assuming that you've already done the other thing, right? Where I recommend that you go out and you sell the product and you get to know who your customers are and you have a decent following before you try to launch the campaign.
Yeah. And
so assumingly, oh, sorry.
Can we pause on that though, too? Because I get this question from folks all the time, and I try to emphasize this, like, do build a following, like somehow, anyhow. Like if you launch a campaign into an empty room with nobody listening, it's going to be hard to get that momentum. Am I right?
100%.
Yeah.
Kickstarter, Indiegogo, none of those platforms will bring customers to you. That's not the way it works. And I've heard people say like, oh, I'm going to try and be one of Kickstarter's featured. No, that's not. I don't know anyone who that's happened. I've had 4 campaigns that have raised a ton of money, and I've never even had a conversation with anyone at Kickstarter. They couldn't care less. So just saying, it's absolutely, you have to drive your own traffic and you have to have your own community. Yeah. So I don't often speak in absolutes. You know, I'm pretty like, oh, anything's possible, but that is one area where I'm like, please don't do without doing that first.
If somebody's listening to this and like, well, crap, I want to do a Kickstarter campaign, but I don't have a community. And I know the answer is going to be go build one, but you know, could somebody try to leverage a relationship into someone else's community? I mean, or is there's no way around it? You just got to go build it first.
I mean, there are definitely other ways to do it, and I'll get into the pitfalls in just a second, but you can go hire companies that have their own databases and that have sophisticated marketing and advertising strategies, and they will run your campaign for you, and they'll, you know, deliver certain results because they're charging you a ton of money. Mm-hmm. So they'll charge, these types of agencies typically charge 25% of whatever you raise. Mm-hmm. And they'll typically charge some sort of upfront fee. Mm-hmm. Now, if you measure that against the time and investment it would take to build your own community, maybe it winds up evening out. But the difference is your community is your community. When you like borrow or pay for someone else's community, that doesn't belong to you. Mm-hmm. And even on Kickstarter, if you have 1,000 people that back your campaign, those customers don't belong to you. They belong to Kickstarter. So you're not allowed to, like, for instance, export that list of customers and put them in your newsletter. Really? That is against the Kickstarter terms of service. Oh, wow. So you really do want to build your own customer base, because a Kickstarter is not actually a strategy. It's a tool that's going to help you achieve some kind of goal. But then what? So if you are hiring some agency and borrowing somebody else's audience, after your campaign is done, let's say it takes you a year to fulfill your campaign, because that's typically what it takes.
Yeah.
Manufacturing and all the other stuff that goes along with it. Then what? What are you going to do like a month after your campaign ends, or 3 months or 6 months? If you didn't take the time to create your own foundation first.
Yeah. Good advice. So the answer is no, go figure it out. Create your own community. Okay.
We'll be so happy you did. Yeah. So assuming that you've taken that groundwork and you've done that, and and it doesn't have to be 4,000 people. It can be, whatever. It depends on your goal. But yeah, those are the people that you are doing a campaign for. And so my advice is to listen to them and to design the campaign around what they want. My second campaign, the $1 Million Kickstarter campaign, I had a sense that it was going to be pretty big. I did not expect it to raise $1 million.
Yeah.
But I did know that it was going to be bigger than the first one. And so when I designed the stretch goals, I didn't put numbers on them right away. I released the next stretch goal after we met the previous one, so I could see what made sense. So instead of saying like, oh, $50,000, we're going to do this, and 100,000 this, 150 this.
That's smart.
We would have unlocked everything in the first 24 hours if I did it that way.
Yeah.
So I gave it a little bit of time, and then throughout the campaign, I would release surprise stretch goals, again, based on what my customers were telling me they wanted. So then it was so exciting for everyone, because then they were kind of on the edge of their seat going like, ooh, is my wish going to be on the campaign, And there was also like a little bit of drama where, a lot of people were asking for like the denim strip stitch, and then it wasn't in that stretch goal. And so then people were upset, and it was like, hang on, it might be the next one, so it was this like exciting, dramatic thing every time we revealed a stretch goal. And that involvement with the customers is one of the things that had the campaign be so successful. And then of course, you mentioned the party toward the end of the campaign, when we started to realize that we could break $1 million on this thing. Then it became a goal. Like, okay, we want to raise $1 million. Like, how rad would that be? So then we just started throwing all this stuff at the wall. We're like, if we raise $1 million, we'll have a big party and everyone can come. And everybody was like, yeah. and so then, in the VIP group, you'd see people being like, everybody get one more bag. We want that party. And then we offered to do swag bags. Everybody would get a swag bag if we reach $1 million. So we added all these things at the very end, and, we ended up going well over $1 million. And in hindsight, I'm like, maybe the swag bags were unnecessary, and it kind of ended up being a big expense and a kind of a headache. And of course, the saying like, no good deed goes unpunished. We had like some people that were like mad because their little flashlight wasn't working, or they don't like bath bombs, and so in hindsight, I probably wouldn't have done that. But the party was amazing. We had hundreds of customers that came from all over the United States and Canada to come to San Diego and have a big party where we danced our butts off and ate good food and had a photo booth. And it just was so much fun. It was the perfect way to wrap up that campaign.
Yeah, it was a fun party. Thanks for letting me tag along.
Of course.
So, if you don't mind, you talked about some of the mechanics, and some of the pitfalls, but anything else that you think might be helpful for somebody to understand about the mechanics of, the running of the campaign. We also talk about the time and team time that you spent in this. Total was 30 days, or how many?
Yeah.
30.
Well,
okay. No.
Creating the campaign itself. Now, I'm a little bit of a freak of nature, and that I can throw something really stunning together in a short amount of time.
Well, you're a designer, and you've also done this before, but like start with somebody that maybe this is their first time. Like, what kind of time frame should they expect here?
I would say, I'm guessing that someone creating a Kickstarter campaign would be similar to my new campaign. So I can get into this in a minute, but right now I'm doing a crowdfunding for equity campaign on WeFunder, and creating that campaign. Oh my goodness. It took me months to get this campaign set up because there's so many things that I didn't know how to do that I had to get support with or learn. So for Kickstarter, I imagine if you don't have the background that I do in graphic design and marketing, it would be similar where you're going to want to give yourself a couple months to create the content of the campaign. And then, I also get the question a lot, how many days should you run the campaign for? I don't see any reason not to do 30 days. All of my campaigns have been 30 days. And I think if you're properly promoting it ahead of time and really on top of promoting during the campaign and communicating with people, I'm always anxious to like close it out, get my money and get the show on the road personally.
Yeah.
And then as far as a time commitment during the campaign, I mean, it's pretty much as the founder, the thing you're going to be working on around the clock.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like just in watching what you've done, you're running like a 30-day straight TV show. I mean, right? Like you're just every day you've got to be on and answering questions and, pushing out new videos and new awards and stretch goals and all like,
lots of announcements, lots of live videos. And especially, so it depends on, what type of product you have, what type of customer you have. My demographic are middle-aged women, and they don't necessarily know what Kickstarter is. They do now. They're all experts at this point. But there was that education factor and getting people to understand like what even is a crowdfunding campaign. What are the expectations around it? That's a huge, huge part of it. There's a tendency to want to just like raise as much money as possible. And at the same time, you really want to raise money from people who are going to be good customers, who are going to understand that this is a Kickstarter campaign. There could be delays. You want those people that are going to be supportive and understanding. So it is tempting to just like take money from anyone. But I've definitely had to fire customers in the past who, had unrealistic expectations or, were poisoning the well with their like, hey, why is this taking so long? And this is weird or whatever.
Well, and then you have that. So you have your VIP group. Did you have any issues with that in the group and addressing it, maybe deleting posts or anything of that nature? Or did you just let it roll?
Yeah, I mean, again, that is a fine line where we really do try to let the community self-moderate.
Okay.
Because it definitely is a challenge as a founder to not take things personally. For me, it's been a practice. I am very visible and I'm out there as the founder. We talked about this earlier, that I'm very authentic. I really lay it all on the line. And so when people aren't kind, it can really hurt, when you put yourself out there as a vulnerable, accessible founder of a company. But over time, I've really learned that none of it's ever actually about me or about the product. It's like people have their own stuff going on in their lives. I could tell you so many stories of people who like lashed out at me or at people in the community. And then after a small conversation and just like finding out what was at the root of what they were upset about, then they turn around the next day and they're apologetic and they're so grateful to be in the community. So it really is like anywhere else in life where you just kind of have to lean back and let things sort themselves out for the most part, because typically they will. Yeah. Any community of people, there's going to be ups and downs and little scuffles and stuff. But then again, like life and like anywhere else, you will have those circumstances where you do have to step in and draw a line. So there has been some of that. And again, the community is very self-moderated, but if I see 7 people flag a certain member and report them, then I'll, have to step in.
Yeah, no, that's great. And the way you've set that up to set that in, expectation that we're all in this together and that they are monitoring, you've got folks that are in there, as a community, and you're not having to be the ultimate source for that is great.
Yeah.
I want to just go back a few more questions on the campaign, and obviously feel free to fire out, I get this question all the time, here it is kind of thing. Let's just pretend I've never done a Kickstarter, which I haven't. And I really have no idea. I would think it would be a good idea to really go study other Kickstarter campaigns. That's the beauty of it. You can see everybody's campaign. It's totally out there. What were their rewards? What did they say? What did their videos look like? And probably even be a customer of some Kickstarter campaigns, right? To see what that communication looks like and whatnot.
Yeah, it's a great idea. And I definitely did a lot of that. And, starting with the fact that I think it's just weird karma to have a campaign when you're not involved in the crowdfunding community. So before I launched my campaign, I took time to research other campaigns, to back other founders. So not only learn from them, but actually support their company. So the campaigns that I found that I was like, oh, wow, these, this is a cool product, or I like the way they set this up, I would actually become a backer. So I'm not just trying to, look at what they did, but really develop a relationship and learn that way. So I did a lot of that in the very beginning, and you'll start to notice a formula.
Yeah. That
the campaigns have a really compelling video, a very authentic video that connects not just, the product, but the founder, the stretch goals, the updates, like you'll see that there's, kind of a formula that works really, really well from a communication perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. And then I know we talked about this when I interviewed you a while ago on your first Kickstarter, but can you set some expectations for folks of how much, if they are going to DIY it, let's make that assumption they're not hiring an agency to do it, how much budget should they put behind the efforts as far as like video and other tech graphics, that type of thing?
Yeah, so my first campaign, I think my video was $5,000. My second campaign, I spent $10,000 on the video, and it was a really complicated, fun, amazing video. A lot of different moving parts in it and a lot of editing. And then my third campaign, the budget was, I want to say around $5,000 or $6,000. My last campaign, I just set up a video in my studio and did it myself, but that I wouldn't recommend that for the first, campaign or two. By my fourth campaign, and plus we were in the middle of a pandemic, it was a smaller campaign, and I totally DIY'd it on that one. But yeah, so I would budget several thousand for the video, and then for advertising, I recommend between 10 and 15% budget for whatever you want to raise. So if you want to raise $100,000, I would have a budget of 10 to 15,000 for advertising. And my campaigns have been a little bit lower than that, probably more like 5%. But again, I did so much groundwork, in building the community ahead of time, that I was able to raise the majority of it organically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would imagine folks need to really factor in all of that to the price of the product too, because Kickstarter takes a cut. You've got, money you're putting in for video and ad and, all these things. I've heard a lot of founders kind of, I'll just say it, screw themselves because they didn't price their product, their rewards levels correctly based on what it was really going to cost them to do this.
Yeah. And that's why I cannot emphasize enough that a Kickstarter is not like, it's not going to be a business model. It's something that you want to do, to get your product out there, to get, validation, to raise a little bit of money. But yeah, I mean, and even raising over $1 million, it's not like I had $1 million sitting in the bank. And I know that other entrepreneurs get that, right? But sometimes, like, some people don't get it, like your family members are like, wow, you're a millionaire. I'm like, nope, not actually.
Now I got to go make all this product and ship it
Yeah.
out and give them all their goodie bags.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta, throw this, huge party and fly to India and do production. And yeah, so it is a really good idea to plan all that ahead of time, to, plan out your shipping costs, all your related expenses, add your advertising budget in, and then make your goal based on that.
Yeah, absolutely. What other questions, like commonly asked questions, have you heard over the years folks have come to you with?
Well, yeah, I mean, raising money is definitely the biggest, and then also just how to launch something in general, because Kickstarter isn't the only way. How to get your product, from inside your head, into reality and existence. And I would say also, I get the question a lot of like, what, somebody has an idea. That's where a lot of people come to me. It's like, I have this idea, and they want to like hire an attorney, and they want to, hire me for consulting or something like that. And I typically am like, whoa, hang on. So I know I just threw like 3 different questions at you.
No. Well, they're all so important. I would, and you have addressed a little bit of this, I think, in some products you've launched recently. Am I right? Like an e-course, and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So my course is actually about selling your product through live video. Which is one of the ways that I definitely recommend getting a product out into the market. So speaking about, building a community, one of the best ways to do that nowadays is through live video.
Yeah.
And that can be intimidating, even going out to a market, and you really have to put yourself out there. You have to be willing to talk to people, to hear feedback. That's not always easy. But it's so important, because if you just are working in a silo and you're just deciding things on your own, you're going to be pretty disappointed when you launch your product and people don't know about it, or they're not buying it and you can't figure out why. That is another thing that comes up a lot, is people are trying to figure out like, why am I not making money? And usually it comes down to like, you're not reaching the right customer, you're not reaching the right people. So figuring out who your target demographic is incredibly important. And live video is a great way to do that. And not everyone feels comfortable just like put on their phone and being like, okay, hey world, I'm live. And live, there's so much that goes along with it. Like if you say something weird, or you don't know what to say, So the course that I developed is a lot about really getting comfortable with your message, knowing how to talk about yourself, how to be authentic, how to tap into that authenticity, because that's really how you're going to build community. And how to connect with the right people, and what channels to use to get your message out there, and all of that.
Awesome. That's awesome. What's the name of the course, the URL, all that?
It is livesalescourse.com.
Awesome. Perfect.
Yeah. And it says on there like that this course is going to change your business and your life, because it really is connected. Like what goes on in your personal life goes on in your business. This is what I have found. So it's not just about like talking about your company and talking about yourself, but really getting clear on like, why do you even want a business? What's your goal? What does it mean to you? And what gets in the way? What are the goofy things you do to sabotage yourself? So the course actually takes you through all of that first, and then it teaches you how to market yourself on live video.
Yeah. And I would imagine so much confidence building through that process of, not only knowing yourself but being comfortable with yourself, and being comfortable with exposing yourself, so to speak, to the world. Video is one of the most intimate ways to do that. So yeah, I would encourage folks to check out that course, because Nicole, I know you put a ton of time and energy and work into that, and your experience is just so valuable to people. I mean, I thank you for sharing it. Yeah.
Thanks for asking about it.
We could go on all day and talk about fundraising, other vehicles, WeFunder, which you launched a campaign there. And I'm sure that's been an education process for your community too. What does equity investing mean?
Yep.
Maybe we'll have you back after that's over and talk about that a little bit more.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Is there any other, for now, is there any just mostly related to Kickstarter specifically, because I know you get a ton of questions, or crowdfunding in general. Is there anything else that you're like, I really wish, I could share this with folks that are listening, don't do that or do this?
Yeah, I would say, I just had someone ask me the other day what it takes, or if I believe that anyone can be successful. I thought it was such an interesting question. And the answer to that question is no.
I was going to say that too.
However,
crude.
However, I think that anyone who is willing to do what it takes can. So there's a willingness that I think is the measure. And as long as you're willing, I think the next thing is to evaluate your skills and your resources. Mm-hmm. And that's what it comes down to. It's like not this elusive, magical thing. It's willingness. If you're willing, okay, cool. What are your skills? And then where do you lack skills? What are your resources?
Yeah.
And, to me, that's like kind of the formula for anyone who's like wondering if they should, launch the product or do the thing. You can get support and you can create resources and you can build your skills, but you really have to be willing to do absolutely whatever it takes to make your product work or your business grow, your dreams come true.
Yeah. So true. I always like to say, I'm sure you get this a lot. Wow, you just overnight success. You're like, yeah, overnight success in 9 years. Yes. Every day, all day for the last 9 years, I've dedicated my life to this. Yes. Overnight success.
Yeah. Yep. I think in Hollywood, they call that the 7-year overnight success.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Awesome. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. I know this is going to be super helpful for folks that are, looking to dive into the world of crowdfunding. And again, would love to have you back once you get through the next stage in the equity crowdfunding side and share any experience you're willing to there as well.
Absolutely. Would love to. Thank you, Felina.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Flight Club, sponsored by Hera Hub. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you soon.